John with Citizen Survival Plan here today. I want to talk a little bit more about getting prepared for terrorist activity here in the United States and or around the world. Right now, we have a lot of stuff going on, especially in the United States. We have terrorists starting to activate around the world. We see what's going on in Israel. And one of my main concerns is, and I mentioned this in my last video, we are finding terrorists, known terrorists on the terrorist watch list starting to try and cross our border. Our border is wide open. This is a big problem for terrorism here in the United States. A lot of things that can happen are probably going to come through that southern border, and it doesn't take many very devoted terrorists to pull something big off here in this country, whether it be attacking our power grid or setting bombs off in public areas. This is what I would be doing right now to be prepared for a terrorist attack. So let's get into it. Just so you know, nothing on this list is more important than the next or less important than anything else. All of these things are going to go together, so you need all of them. The first thing I'm going to want to do is just get water filtration. If they are attacking public utilities or blowing up electrical stations and stuff, our public utilities can get shut down. And we're going to want to be able to filter any water we can find. If we need to collect rainwater or water out of streams and stuff, I need to filter it and I need it to be safe for us and our family to drink. I trust Berkey water filters and Katadyn. The big Berkey or the Royal or whatever one you want for home is going to be really good. That's going to be your home water filter. You're going to gravity filter all your water through. And then more of a mobile filter that I like is the Katadyn Hiker. That's when you're away from your house, you need to filter water or whatever. So those two water filters are going to be priority number one on my list. The next thing is we want to stockpile food. We are going to want freeze-dried food. I mention this a lot because freeze-dried food is the best. I know it's a little bit expensive, but all I need is some boiled water and a propane cook stove to boil some water, or a rocket stove in your backyard. A little bit of that in there, and we can eat the food right out of the bag. I'm not making dishes. Because we're in an emergency, we might have utilities cut off and stuff. This is going to be the best way to do it. Keep in mind all the food in your fridge, if you don't have backup power, it's pretty much going to be gone, and you're going to be going to non-perishable food like freeze-dried food. I always recommend the Mountain House entree meals, the cook and bag meals, because I can add some of the number 10 cans of meat in there to add protein to it. And when I'm done with that meal, I can pack the entree bag flat and I can store it in a Home Depot bin or something and have minimal garbage. I could eat for months like that, and I would probably only fill up one bin of garbage with those meals. Don't forget, if you have kids, make sure you have the powdered milk. I recommend going to Augustin Farms for this. And the fruit and veggie pails, Augustin Farms 2 is going to help you out there. They have a lot of good high quality products, not affiliated at all. So next on the list is get a cook stove. I like the Coleman dual burners when you get two burners that run off the 1 pound propane cylinders. And also wouldn't be a bad idea to have a rocket stove in your backyard, something you could add some wood to and preserve the propane on nice days where you can cook outside or whatever. It would be a good idea to have that as well. A buddy heater. This is more important than just keeping you warm. We don't want our water filters to freeze in our houses. All the water filters, like the Katadyn, Berkey, or anything, they can't freeze, so you're going to need to keep a spot in your house warm. And if you have kids, this is important too, because you can keep your house relatively warm. So this kind of covers two bases. So with all this propane, the cooking and the heating and everything, we're going to want to store propane. So I'm going to want to store probably at least 6 of the 20-pound cylinders that go on your grill. You could also use your grill to cook. But I'm going to want to get a bunch of the smaller 1 pound cylinders because some of the cook stoves don't run off of a tank and it's hard to hook an adapter to them to make that work. So we want a bunch of the 1 pound cylinders and we want a bunch of the big tanks. We're also going to want a special valve that hooks into our 20-pound propane tanks so I can refill the 1-pound cylinder so I can continue cooking. So it's a little valve. I'll put it up here. I'll put a link in there too for you. It's going to be really good to have that. Another thing that I really like to tell people to get is GMRS radios. A lot of emergency preparedness lists and stuff just tell you to get a hand crank radio, or just go get one at like Dick's or Walmart, like the little bubble packs of the FRS radios. Your FRS radios you get at a store are a half of a watt. They are not very powerful at all. They probably will only go a half a mile if you're in a neighborhood or something. So we're going to want to go ahead and spend the $35 online, get your GMRS license. That pretty much happens overnight. And you can bump right up to 50 watts on your base stations. And then your handheld radios that are on you are 5 watts. So we're getting a lot more power. You can go a couple miles on 5 watts, especially if you get up high on something, you're on top of a house or a building or something. You can go very far. I've talked to someone who was up real high, and we went about 10 miles just on handhelds, and we had perfect signal. So you can get pretty far in those. A lot of that depends on your terrain and stuff, though. I also like GMRS because, again, I'm going to reiterate this. I can get it right away. I don't need to study for months on end to get my ham license. Ham is a superior radio system, probably, but we live in reality. We all have jobs. We all have things we have to do all day. Ham operators are less than 1% of the population. We want to get into a powerful radio system right away. GMRS is the way to do that. We are going to want to get solar generators. This can be used as a renewable energy source for everything you need. Recharging your radios, if you have a CPAP machine and you need to use that to get a good night's sleep, we can power that at night. Make sure you get at least a 5 to 1,000 watt if you want to run your CPAP. Make sure you have solar panels with this so you can recharge it. Another thing that I think people don't think about that much is if our electricity grid is attacked, we also can't control the weather and whatnot at the same time. So if you have a storm come through, like a rainstorm or something, a lot of us have sump pumps in our house. Ours is on a battery backup, but a lot of people's aren't. So if you have a lot of storms going on and the grid's down, you're going to want to get like at least an 1,800 watt solar generator so you can plug into your sump pump so your house doesn't flood, because you don't want your house flooding during an emergency. That's something to think about. Even if you get a gas one, make sure you have enough gas or propane to run it. To keep your house from flooding. That's a big one. Another note about the solar generator, is there is ways to turn on well pumps by plugging them in and kicking your well pump on to get water so you're not collecting water. I've mentioned this before. This is a good thing to use for that. If you have medication that you need to keep cold, whether it's diabetic medication or if you have kids that are on like amoxicillin or something at that time or whatever, you just need to keep some medicine cold. A small DC fridge that runs off DC power coupled with your solar generator is going to be really good for keeping your medication cold. This is going to be really important for people who are on medicine that needs to stay cold. Guns and ammo. Things are getting crazy. We watch people parachute in and kill people in an act of terrorism. I think you should have an AR-15, and I am not shy about that. I think every American should have an AR-15. Get a 16-inch, nice, short, not too short. The 16 is kind of my favorite. Get a 16-inch AR-15 with a full 15-inch M-lock rail on it. You want to go the whole way up. You're going to want to put a good light on that. I always recommend the Streamlight HLX. It's the ProTac HLX. It's 1,000 lumens. It'll really light some stuff up. It's very good. You're going to want to also equip your rifle with just a sling and a red dot optic. Red dot optics are just superior to iron sights. I feel like that argument's just over. I can turn all kinds of different angles. As long as the dot is on what I'm shooting, that's what I'm hitting. I always recommend Hollow Sun products with the solar failsafe stuff. Those are my favorite. That is the way that you as a civilian should set up a defensive rifle. We're going to want to store probably 1,000 rounds of ammunition for each rifle. And I know that sounds like a lot, but keep in mind, I want you to just imagine yourself in an emergency situation where the grid is down and there may be terrorists in the area, or, you know, attacks in your area or whatnot, or they're coming to your area. You may hand an AR-15. Many of us have a couple, and if you're like me, you're probably going to hand some off to some people you trust. These people probably have never shot one before. It might be nice to go out and teach them how to use it if they're your neighbor or something. So we want a lot of ammo in case we need to train someone real quick with the gun, just to get them familiar and get them to a level where they can also help us protect our neighborhoods and schools, whatnot. We're going to want to hand those off to people. I know that that's kind of controversial, but I really think in a really bad situation, you will be handing some of your rifles off to some people you trust who may not know how to use them, and giving them a quick training lesson is going to be invaluable. Concealed carry permits. You and your wife, women, men, both need to have their concealed carry permits. Sometimes there is going to be multiple attackers, and this is really aimed at women. I'm sorry, but it really is. Men are easy to get into guns. Like, we just love them. They're cool. We like to go shoot. We love to get away for the afternoon and go to the range. Women, not so much. I mean, there's always exceptions, but for this video, we're going to stay in reality. Get your concealed carry permit if you are a woman, especially with kids. If me and my wife are out and there is multiple attackers, are you going to be better off with just me having a gun, concealed carry, and shooting back? Or are you going to have mom and dad both firing back? You know, surprise, more than one person with a gun. So really, really important. I'm pushing that. That's going to be really important, especially as we see, you know, these surprise pop-up terrorist attacks, and even people that are just unhinged, that, you know, shoot up a mall or something. You're going to be way better off with two people armed than one. There's no arguing that. Also, for women, I just want to note this. I know that you probably don't care about guns. A lot of you probably don't. You don't need to make this the next big hobby of your life. Get your concealed carry permit. Get a gun. It's not going to kill you financially. It's going to be really important, especially if you have children. Practice twice a year. Just go to the range and make sure you can practice and use your gun. That's pretty much as good as it's probably going to get for most people, and I think that's going to be really important. We're going to go into range time here. I want you to get away from your range that only lets you sit at a single bench, setting down, resting your gun on sandbags, and shooting one shot every 3 seconds. Get away from that range immediately. Go to a real range or a training program. I know a lot of us are very busy. The training programs are expensive. At least find a range where you have the freedom to lay down, kneel, stand up, and shoot. When you're attacked and you have a rifle, or you're defending someplace with a rifle, you're not going to be in a bench. You need to learn how to shoot standing up, laying, kneeling, putting your gun on cover around corners and stuff. Just any little practice is better than none. We want to get away from those ranges. And maybe convince the range not to be like that. If you have any say, if you're a member of that range, change those rules. A big thing for me is shooting steel. And this goes into training with people that aren't interested in guns, and you know, women. You bring your wife to the range, she's not really that interested. They're going to have a lot more fun shooting steel. It's interactive, you can hear it come back. It's a much more fun experience to train somebody shooting on steel targets than it is just shooting a paper target and then looking through a scope and seeing where you hit. I also get instant feedback, so I can pick up how fast or slow I can actually shoot that rifle, which is really good. We are gonna want to check our rifles that work in all conditions. If you have an adjustable gas block on your gun, or you're running suppressed or unsuppressed, or whatever you're doing, you need to make sure your gas system can run on a 90-degree day and run on a 10-degree day or 0-degree day or whatever. Winter's coming up, so that's something to think about. But just in general, make sure your rifle can work all the time. We're not going to be able to pick what season we're attacked in, what the weather's going to be like, etc. We just need to make sure. So you know what? I'm going to put a gassing chart up. Check your rifles, see where your ejection is. I'm not so worried about overgassing as I am undergassing, because then your rifle will start short stroking and you won't get cycling. Some of my rifles are a little bit overgassed, and I'm okay with that. I know people say it'll break stuff. You have to be really overgassed to start really damaging your gun a lot. I like my guns to be just a little bit overgassed. Because then when I know when it's cold, they won't fail on me. I know that I got plenty of gas running through that. Also, you can store some spare parts if you're really worried about if you have your gun running a little over gas. You can change gas rings and some parts out on the bolt if you're that concerned about it. Having an adjustable gas block on your rifle is not the worst idea. I don't like them as much as just finding the right system for your gun, the right gas block, tube, whatever. Because it's just another part on your gun that can go bad. I just like regular standard gas blocks. EMP proofing some of your equipment. This is going to be important because mostly, let me start with one on the vehicle. You might need to get out of where you are. And I don't want to just grab my bug out bag or what I can carry on me and move out. I want to EMP proof my vehicle. That way I know that it's going to work when it's time to go. I want to load up everything I can and move out to someone else's house in another area or whatnot if I absolutely have to. EMP shield, I think, are about $600 if you get the whole system. My thoughts on this is, your car may be able to stand an EMP attack either way. In my opinion, not all cars are going to be wiped out. There's going to be a percentage of them that are wiped out. So if you get EMP shield, you're probably going to be pretty safe. But if you just want some protection and you don't want to wire your vehicle up for EMP, the traps, the transient reducing aux plugs are nice. Put a couple of them in your car and I think you'll be just fine, in my opinion. EMP stuff is stuff that you could argue about for hours and hours and hours. I like the traps. I trust the person that made them. He doesn't seem like a scammer to me. I have traps in my vehicle. Do whatever EMP proofing you think is best for you. Keeping some of your equipment in EMP cans, especially your radio equipment. Your radio equipment should be doubled up. You should put it in the Faraday bags and put it in a steel can lined with cardboard. Don't let anything touch the edges. You're not going to be able to EMP proof everything you have, but I would like a certain amount of equipment put back and under EMP protection. You won't be able to save everything. So just consider that's going to be a big one. I do want some EMP protection on at least some of my equipment. This is an item we can't forget either, but a good first aid kit with a tourniquet. If you need to tourniquet someone to get them to the hospital, that's going to be critical as well. Last thing to consider, and I'm putting this on at the end, hygiene stuff, hygiene products, anything you currently use to keep yourself clean. If you have kids, baby wipes, soap, and a solar shower would be nice to have. I know it's not as important as maybe some of the other stuff on this list, but you're going to want to keep yourself clean and healthy during a situation where you might be hunkered down for a while if there is terrorist activity in the country. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope everything I laid out was helpful to you and something to think about. Let's all remember that our government is $33 trillion in debt. There is 2 wars currently going on. No one is coming to save you. Plan accordingly.